Doctors could be on the brink of a breakthrough.
Migraines.
How to control them.
Tame a migraine.
A severe migraine.
Throbbing, recurring headaches.
Given all the noise, navigating the migraine experience can be confusing and scary, but you do not have to do it alone. Welcome to the Migraine Guy Podcast, the official podcast of themigraineguy.com and theheadachereview.com. Now, here's your host.
What is up, everyone? It is Kevin here, the Migraine Guy, kicking off the 2019 new year with a new edition of the Migraine Guy podcast. If you're new to the podcast, I hope you will hit subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. And if you are listening on iTunes or Apple Podcast, I hope you'll pause for a moment and leave a 5-star review of the podcast, as well as some kind comments about why you like it. So we've been off for a few weeks here at the podcast. Obviously, the holidays and the new year kind of interfere with most people's regular plans, and that's what happened with me. But we are back, towards the end of 2018, the podcast frequency was turning into about one per month, just because things were getting quite hectic. Hopefully we can do a couple per month on a regular basis. I've got a little bit more of a regular schedule this semester, teaching-wise, and so I should be able to fit recording podcast in more often. As well as we're going to introduce some new elements to the podcasts. We're going to have some other people doing small segments in addition to the normal format that I provide. That way you can hear from other people and get their perspective either on their migraine life or on some topics that they think are interesting and relevant to us as migraine sufferers. So look for some changes in the coming weeks to the podcast. But for today's show, it is going to be pretty standard. I'm going to start off giving you a quick update about my own migraine life. Then we're going to hop into some migraine news, give you a migraine tip of the week, and then do a listener comment, question, or story. So that's the basic format. Hope you'll subscribe if you like it. So basically, my migraines have been greatly reduced and kept low for the past probably 2 months by my introducing CoQ10, the supplement, the coenzyme Q10 supplement, into my supplement regimen. So in the morning and in the evening, I take 100 milligrams of the brand I prefer is Source Naturals. Their CoQ10. It just seems to, I feel best when I take that brand, but I had to make a couple emergency stops over the past couple weeks in order to get some, because I forgot to make Amazon order it for me automatically, and so I've been using Equate's brand, the brand from the store Walmart up the street, and it's been working pretty well too. I typically get, before I was taking CoQ10, like I said, anywhere from 3 to 5 migraines a week, with pain intensity in the 3 to 6 range on a 1 to 10 pain scale. And now I'm looking at maybe one migraine every 8 to 10 days in the 3 to 5 pain range. So, per month, we're looking at maybe around 3 now versus the 20-ish, 15 to 20-ish that it was before. And so I am I'm trying to be optimistic, but also realistic, and realize that something could change. Maybe my migraines will come back. Maybe I'll become kind of, quote, desensitized or conditioned to the CoQ10, and I'll have to up the dosage or something. But for right now, my migraines are well under control, doing much, much better than I have been the past few years. And I'm able to focus on a number of other things. We've got a lot of things coming up in our life in the next 6 to 8 months, and having my migraines under control is going to make planning and organizing for all of those things gonna go much smoother. So, I went from supplement to supplement over the last few years, and medication to medication, and at some point you do kind of become disheartened, or even maybe apathetic, or just really negative about the prospects of finding something that's going to help reduce your migraines. And I certainly felt that way after a while. And then I just decided to try the CoQ10. It was one of the supplements on the list that I had been putting off, just because I was kind of skeptical and, just kind of not thinking anything was really going to help. And then, 2 weeks into taking the CoQ10, I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, I haven't had a migraine for a couple days. And then a couple days later, I haven't had a migraine for almost a week. And then 2 weeks, and now we're at about 2 months, really with a huge migraine reduction. So just keep plugging away, talk with your doctor. There are a number of supplements that are worth trying. We've covered a lot of them on the podcast. Make sure to check out previous episodes where we've talked about various supplements, whether it be vitamin B or magnesium, feverfew, butterbur, CoQ10, stuff like that. And each of them might help a little bit, right? Even if they only provide a 5 or 10% reduction to your migraines per month, if you could get 2 or 3 of those to help, that could be, a 10 to 15% reduction. You might gain 2 or 3 or 5 days back of your life per month just from trying some supplements. And so it's definitely worth it and definitely something to look into. In conjunction with talking to your doctor, telling them about what you are going to be taking and what brand you're going to be taking, and if they have any concerns about it, right? Because for some people, if you have a particular liver issues, certain supplements you might want to watch out for and have your liver health tested more regularly if you're going to be taking that supplement, just because some of the supplement brands that are out there also include other things which, if taking long term, could damage certain organs, and so you'd want to be talking with your doctor about it. But it's definitely an option that many doctors do recommend, specifically headache and migraine specialists, and big organizations like the American Neurological Association and others really do promote supplements in conjunction with medication and dietary changes because they can be so effective. And so I'm just really focused on getting some of the supplement stuff out there into the migraine world, not because people don't know about it, but because sometimes people get disheartened or they haven't actually heard of the supplement that might actually also help, that there is research supporting its use. So want to just keep this train going. So let's hope that my migraines stay low, and let's hope that you can find a supplement to help reduce yours. That being said, after we do this little bit where I talk about my own migraine life, we hop into some migraine news, so let's do that. All right, this week's bit of migraine news comes to us out of England. The National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, abbreviated NICE, they are in charge of the Department of Health in England, and they have rejected Novartis's, the pharmaceutical company, their migraine treatment drug, the CGRP medication Aimovig. And in the United States, Aimovig has made a lot of news headlines over the past few months. It was the first CGRP medication FDA approved for migraine prevention. There have been a couple more that are in the works since then, but they were the first, and they were hoping to be the first in England as well. But England's health governing body has rejected their claim. Now, initially, lots of migraine sufferers online were very upset about this. They thought that it was some sort of weird political move or some weird move to help benefit other migraine preventatives from pharmaceutical companies other than Novartis, like the people who make Topamax and propranolol, etc., and the people who do Botox treatments. But there are some interesting research-based scientific reasons that the National Health Institute has rejected Aimovig in England. According to the director of the Center for Health Technology Evaluation at NICE, Meinhard Boysen is his name. He was reportedly quoted saying that Aimovig is a promising new preventative treatment for migraine, which has demonstrated its clinical effectiveness compared with other supportive care. However, the evidence before NICE was insufficient to indicate that it was more effective than Botox. And so the main reason that they're saying, anyway, is that it doesn't seem more effective than Botox, and so for some reason they don't think that justifies bringing it into the migraine preventative drug options that patients could have access to if their doctor thinks that that's appropriate. Now, there are some financial reasons as well, right? Aimovig is a very, very, very expensive migraine medication, hundreds of dollars per month for one subscription. For one, injection pen per month, and so I assume that since, England has a national healthcare system that offers free healthcare to all of its citizens and offers, free or extremely discounted medication for all of its citizens, that the cost of introducing Aimovig as a migraine preventative and covering that cost for the number of patients that they have was probably just not the kind of thing that they could fit into the budget. And it also sounds like then, if that's the case, that Novartis probably wasn't willing to bend too far on how much they wanted to charge per patient for the injection. And so there's probably a very strong financial story going on in the background that we don't have access to, because the discussion about whether or not it's more effective than Botox doesn't quite make sense, because even though Botox, until the CGRP meds came out, was supposed to be the most effective migraine preventative, it was still at best about 50% effective for any given patient. And so it was basically, for any 2 migraine patients, Botox would help 1, which is great. But if you're the other one, the one that Botox doesn't help, a medication like Aimovig, like the CGRP class of medications, might have been kind of something you were hoping for because Botox didn't work for you. And now that's not an option. And it really stings as a migraine patient. You can find lots and lots of people who have been upset online, and not just typical online range, but people that work at news agencies that have covered these stories and interviewed doctors and medical professionals who are looking forward to having this medication as an option for their patients. There's a lot of anger going on here, because if it is just about finances, right, if it's just because Novartis wanted to make as much money as they could, so they didn't want to negotiate the price with England, and if it's because England didn't want to do anything to help cover the cost of this for their patients, both of those are in general very bad reasons, especially if you're a migraine sufferer for whom many of the other migraine preventatives have not helped. If you were really looking at Aimovig as a kind of silver bullet, or at least something that you were hoping was going to potentially help you a bit, that option is not available now. Now, of course, there are different ways to get medications, right? This is the age of the internet, so I don't know the full legal structure in England, not by any means, and so I don't know if you can import medications like you can in the United States, right? If you want to purchase a medication from Canada, you can do that as long as you follow particular laws. So maybe there are some ways that English patients still can have access to the CGRP meds if they have the finances for it. But again, that's just a very tough boat to be in. 1, because the medications themselves are very expensive, and 2, it's there's a moral element that you shouldn't have to be doing this just to try to get a medication that could give you your life back, or at least part of your life back. So all in all, kind of a bummer of a story. There's a lot of petitioning that can go on right now. If you just do a quick search for petition, National Institute of Health England, migraine medication. I'll put a link in the show notes, of course, but if you search for this later on, you can just do a basic search, and you'll find some petitions that you can sign to bring the issue back up in English politics, and try to force politicians to do what's in the best interest of their citizens. So make sure that if you know someone in England, or you live in England and care about this issue, that you are promoting it, that you're talking about it, and that you're getting your fellow citizens to raise their voice and help get this medication that does have a lot of clinical support behind it to get into the hands of doctors and patients. So that being said, let us move on to your migraine tip of the week. All right, this week's migraine tip of the week is going to continue our look at natural approaches both to preventing and aborting migraines. The past 5 or 6 podcasts, we've looked at specific supplements that you can use to either prevent or abort your migraines that have significant research behind them. And today we're going to continue, but instead of a supplement, we're going to look at an oil, specifically lavender oil. Now, lavender oil has been used and claimed to be very, very helpful for a very long time, centuries, millennia, to be a calming, mood stabilizing herb and oil. And there is some research behind its effectiveness as a way to help reduce migraine pain when you're in the midst of an attack, so a kind of an abortive. And a 2012 study actually in the journal European Neurology did a small study. It had 47 participants, and between those 47 participants, there were 129 migraine attacks. But what they found when they introduced lavender oil as an abortive was quite interesting. The study showed that 71% of patients' attacks were resolved partially or totally by inhaling lavender. Quote, the present study suggests that inhalation of lavender essential oil may be an effective and safe treatment in acute management of migraine headaches, end quote. And so this was interesting. If you've ever used an essential oil before, they do have this really calming effect on me, maybe on you as well. Eucalyptus oil, lavender oil, peppermint oil, if you can get them in kind of the concentrated essential oil form, then you can dilute them as much or as little as you need. I like them just the raw essential oil, so very, very concentrated amounts. And typically, you can take a little out, dab it on your finger and either put it on your pulse points, maybe put it somewhere on your neck or chest, or, on your upper lip if you want direct inhalation of the oil. And if you can incorporate lavender oil or some of the other essential oils with a kind of deep breathing regimen and a kind of breathing stabilization technique when you're in the midst of a migraine, that will force you to get kind of the maximum oxygenation in your blood that's possible. It will also help calm you down because by focusing on your breathing, you force yourself to kind of become, you force yourself basically to get into a rhythm that helps it calm down, because one of the things that's very often associated with migraine is kind of an anxious feeling, especially when the pain hits you. It's very easy to feel anxious, and that anxiousness actually adds to your inability to deal with the pain. And so if you can kind of take the anxiousness down by deep breathing and relaxing oils, you can actually reduce some of the symptoms of your migraine. Now, if you're going to get lavender oil, there's a variety of ways to get it. You can, of course, as I said, get it in the oil. You can get the herb itself, and they have other items that you can get. But regardless of how you're going to regardless of the form that you're going to get of the lavender oil, you do want to make sure that whatever bottle or vial that you're getting says essential, therapeutic, or pharmacy grade. Lavender is one of the few essential oils light enough that it can be applied directly to your skin, but you can also dilute it in something else if you want to. One potential way that people who get the flu or have nasal infections of various kinds, right? If you get a pot of water and you boil it and you put some herbs or spices or something in there and kind of put a towel over your head and help you just breathe in the steam and the essential oil, it's a normal way to try and help clear up your breathing and calm you down. But also, if you can handle the heat, might be a nice way to introduce it into your migraine regimen. Placing a few drops just on your palms or wrist, of course, is easy to do. It also can serve as kind of a cologne or a perfume if you want it to. But the important point is that it's a calming agent. It's supposed to help calm you down. I know when I get a migraine, when they're bad, that very often, as I said, I feel anxious, but I feel anxious because of the pain, but I also feel anxious because I don't know when the pain's going to stop. And sometimes just being able to breathe deeply and calmly is a very effective way to bring down the pain, because I'm not focusing on when is this going to be over. I'm focusing on how pleasant the oil smells, and that helps free me from the grips of the migraine a little bit. In fact, in our migraine support group on Facebook, the Migraine Guy support group, we have a member who runs her own essential oils. She has other stuff, but the essential oils, since that's what we're talking about right now, she has her own essential oils store online, Lapixie Wellness. And so I'm going to put a link to her shop as well. She didn't ask me to do this, but I really like her stuff. She had sent me some stuff for review actually many years ago, which you can find on the YouTube page. I review a kind of headache pack that she sells, which I found to be very effective. I was actually surprised at how effective it was, and for all the reasons that we've said in this portion of the podcast today. And so I'm going to put a link to her stuff as well. She has a lot of great products on there and a lot of good prices as well. So I'll put a link to that if you're interested in purchasing lavender oil or perhaps something else. So let me know if any sort of essential oils do help you. Lavender oil or otherwise. Peppermint oil is, of course, another popular one, but we've talked about peppermint on the podcast before, so I wanted to do a different essential oil. So let me know. Hit me up on social media. Just search the Migraine Guy on whatever platform you are on, and let me know if lavender oil or something else did or didn't help you and why you think it did. If it did help you, was it as calming and relaxing as I found? And if it didn't help you, did you at least notice that you were more calm, or did it not affect your kind of anxiousness, your anxiety with your migraine at all? I want to know more about this. And let's move on to the final part of the show now. That's going to be migraine listener comment, question, or story. All right, this week's migraine comment, question, or story from a podcast listener comes to us from my Migraine Guy support group. The question that someone asked was kind of a general question that we've addressed at various points in the podcast in various ways, but it's always good to do a reminder. And this question was about alternative therapies for migraines, or non-medication therapies for migraines. And there's a great host of things that you can try that in combination may help bring your migraine pain down quite a bit and or serve as a preventative against you getting as many migraines as you currently are. So some of the basic things that you can do that your doctor probably won't either know about or have thought about are simple things that include ice for your head. There's a number of devices out there. Of course, the migraine hat, the headache helmet, the ice cap. There's a ton of devices out there, lots of which you can find reviews of on the Migraine Guy YouTube page. And ice, serves as a nice cooling, nerve-numbing agent, as well as a kind of way to reduce inflammation in your brain, in your head, in the area where you're putting the ice. And so at home, if you're curious if ice is going to help and you're not sure if you want to drop the $30 or $40 on one of the ice devices, you can, of course, grab some frozen vegetables out of the freezer and plop them on your head for a bit. Now, that's probably going to be a little too cold. Skin to ice contact can sometimes be painful for people, so you might want to put a towel over your scalp while you put the peas or carrots or whatever it is on your head, and see if that helps relieve at least some of the migraine pain. Other things that you can, of course, do are heat, something like a heating pad, or maybe some sort of device that you can microwave. Sometimes I think there are some microwavable heating packs that use rice or rice-like materials to retain warmth that you could put on your head. Some people find that to be very beneficial if they don't find ice to be beneficial. Additionally, there's a lot of supplements out there that are definitely worth diving into. Now, of course, like medications, you have to give the supplements a long time in your system to really build up and provide either the preventative qualities that they may offer or the abortive qualities, depending on what kind of supplement you're going to use. Over the past, I think, 6 podcasts, we've dived into a variety of different supplements that you can use, as well as stuff that you can find online about other supplements that we haven't discussed yet on the podcast. But your big ones, the ones that most neurologists and headache specialists are going to want you to start buying and consuming, are going to be feverfew, butterbur, magnesium, and other ones that don't have as much research supporting that they're going to be effective all of the time, but CoQ10, what's the other one I'm trying to think of? Ginger supplements, either pill or liquid form, can serve as an abortive for some people. So if you get a migraine, you notice it early enough, and you pop about 1,000 milligrams of ginger. Lots of people have reported that helps reduce and or take away their migraine pain, and then you don't have a lot of the negative side effects that a triptan can bring, or an ergot, for example. But at the same time, you also want to keep in touch with your doctor. That's probably the biggest thing. Whatever your non-medication therapy is going to be with your migraines, if you're going to try, a few hundred milligrams of magnesium every day, actually more than a few hundred, probably 300 to 600 milligrams a day of magnesium, you're definitely going to want to be talking to your doctor about that. That way they can keep in touch with you about any worries that they have. Sometimes if you increase whatever it is that you're taking of a supplement, magnesium, feverfew, butterbur, whatever, if those supplements have some additional ingredients in them that we're not really thinking about when we buy the supplement, sometimes long-term exposure to those ingredients can do harm to things like your liver. This was one of the big things that was controversial about, I think it was either butterbur or feverfew, about 3 or 4 years ago, and it caused the American Neurological Association and a bunch of other big neurological and headache-oriented agencies to not recommend any particular supplement, because supplement brands, being unregulated in a lot of countries, allowed a lot of other ingredients to be added to the supplements, and then resulted in lots of people, well, not lots of people, but enough that they were worried to have different kind of organ issues. And so this is something you want to, make sure that you're in, apart from your migraines, right? Kind of a generally good, you have a nice baseline for your health. You don't have any organ issues, don't have any heart issues, you don't have any other issues, because sometimes supplements can affect those. So definitely whatever you're going to take that is a non-traditional, a homeopathic, a quote unquote natural treatment for your migraines, in addition to whatever your doctor and you are working on prescription wise, you always want to let them know what you're taking and how much they're taking. Sometimes some headache specialists have their own brand of supplement or have partnered with other organizations to get discounts on supplements, and so that's another reason you want to talk to your doctor about it. So in the realm of non-medication migraine treatments, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can get into. Lots of it has been covered on my YouTube page. I've reviewed a number of products, and I'm going to continue to do so. In fact, I have a couple reviews to do here over the next week or two. I've got the migraine stopper from Australia, a pressure and air pressure based device that claims to help reduce headaches and migraines in about 80% of people who have used it. Just got off of a Skype interview last night with the creator. And then I've also got another ice based device, the migraine what's it called? I've got the box right here, the Migraine Relief Hat. And so we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. If you haven't tried any of those things, make sure to at least give it a consideration. For example, as I said in the open, the CoQ10 for me has been life-changing, and it's maybe the 6th supplement that I've tried now. And so sometimes you just have to make the list of everything you want to try and then just systematically go through them one by one and see if they're going to help. So if you want to know more details about each of those things, make sure to check out the older episodes of the podcast. You can also hit me up on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm everywhere you are, so make sure to send me a question or comment, or if you find a brand that you really like, please let me know. Now, that being said, let's get to the end of the show. All right, that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Migraine Podcast, the Migraine Guy Podcast, the first episode of 2019. Now, there are a couple other migraine podcasts online, but I want to thank you for listening and hopefully subscribing to this one. If you are feeling isolated or alone, you're feeling like life is just too filled with pain for it to be worth living, or you're feeling like people who should care about you have abandoned you and you need a support group, I have an online support group over at Facebook. You can just search the Migraine Guy support group and request access. We have moderators that will review your Facebook profile if available to make sure that you don't look like you're trying to scam us, as well as a couple questions that you have to answer in order to be allowed into the group. But once you do those very, very simple things, and we only do that to weed out the kind of people who prey upon migraine sufferers, once you do that, you get access to our group where we have about 1,300 members right now, all of whom are very, very active in the group, most of whom, who are very active in the group, and who, between the 1,300 in there probably have, thousands of years of migraine experience if you put it all together. And so if you need a group, that is definitely a place that I would recommend. There are lots of good support groups online, but I think ours is the best. So make sure to head over to Facebook if you need a support group. And I'm going to close out the show the way that I always do. And I just want you to know that regardless of what's going on right now, it can get better. And just remember that you are not alone. If you want to help keep everything that the Migraine Guy does free, then you can become a patron over at the website patreon.com. That's Patreon.com. Patreon lets people contribute funds to other people whose work they value. Becoming a patron does things for me, such as allowing me to buy new products so that I can do product review videos so that you know whether or not a given migraine product actually works before you buy it. It also helps me do things like upgrade the microphones and cameras for both the YouTube channel and this podcast. And more importantly, it helps me be accountable to you, my migraine community. You can pledge as low as $1 a month if you want to, and every single dollar does help. Just head over to patreon.com/themigraineguy to become a patron today.